Hi friends, I would like to share a story with you today called The Biggest Apple Ever. Now, I chose the story because I know that some of you have probably been to the apple cider mill near us lately, and I have been to visit, and I got some delicious apples there and some delicious donuts there. But the apple cider mill is a very nice place right in our neighborhood where you can go and you can see how apples grow, and you can see how they pick the apples, and you can even pick out apples to buy and take home with you. So we're going to read The Biggest Apple Ever. Once there were two mice who fell in love with the same apple pie, but you had to be there to see how it happened. On opening day at Mouseville School, the principal, Mr. Mouser, made an announcement. We will be learning about apples this fall, and to get things started, we will have a contest. Whoever brings the biggest apple to his teacher will win a special prize. The judging will take place on Friday. Good luck, everyone. I have an apple in my backyard, said Penelope. I bet it has really big apples on it. There are apple trees across my house, said James, and I am going to climb one as soon as I get home. I don't have any apple trees, said Clayton, the house mouse, but I am going to find Mrs. Mousley the biggest apple ever. No, you're not, said his friend Rosamond, the field mouse. I am. Oh, yeah, said Clayton. Yeah, said Desmond. All the way home on the school bus, Clayton and Desmond talked about the contest. Maybe I could grow an apple tree with really big apples, said Clayton. It takes too long, said Desmond. I heard that Mrs. Mousley said 6 years. I'll think of something, said Clayton. So will I, said Desmond. When Clayton got off of the bus, he sneaked back into town to see what Penelope and James were up to. Penelope had come down from her tree, and she was carrying 2 tiny apples. James was still up in the tree across the street. He was picking very small apples. Clayton knew that he'd seen bigger ones at the market. When Desmond came by a little later, he realized the same thing. The next day at school, Penelope and James brought in their tiny apples. No one else had brought in anything. Mrs. Mousley cleared her throat. Class, we have a lot of work to start this year, but because we are learning about apples and having an apple contest, we are going to go to Barnberry's orchard this afternoon. Everyone was very excited. I'm going to find the winning apple, said Clayton. I am going to find the winning apple, said Desmond. At the orchard, Mrs. Mousley pointed out different kinds of apples. Then everyone disappeared into the trees looking for looking for a winner. Clayton walked down one row, craning his neck. Desmond walked down another row, craning his neck. Then Clayton saw what he thought was a really big apple. It was a little bit too high to reach, but he stretched for it. At that moment, Desmond saw the very same apple on the very same branch, and he stretched for it too. They bumped heads and they fell down. I think we should bring this apple in together, said Clayton. No one said that we couldn't, said Desmond. But when they got back to the bus, James had an apple that was even bigger. The apple was so big that he could barely carry it. Clayton and Desmond looked at each other. What would they do now? That night at dinner, Clayton explained the problem to his dad. Said his dad. Apples don't come in too many sizes. Do you think that you can find a bigger one? I don't know, said Clayton. Then maybe James will win the prize this time. It's okay if he does. Over at Desmond's house, Uncle Vernon said exactly the same thing. But Clayton and Desmond were still determined. The next afternoon, they met at Barnaby Orchard. They picked 2 huge baskets full of apples, but nothing they found was bigger than the apple that James had picked. You know, Clayton said, I think Dad was right. This time, James might get to win. But we've got all of these apples. Why don't we bake a big apple pie? Desmond laughed. Great, let's bake the biggest apple pie ever, and then we'll make it for our whole class. Clayton nodded. And I think I know where we'll find a pie pan that's big enough. The following afternoon, Desmond arrived at Clayton's house with Uncle Vernon. Everything is packed up and ready, said Clayton. It's all in Dad's truck. But where are we going? Desmond asked. You'll find out in a minute, said Clayton. Dad drove with Clayton and Desmond beside him in the front seat. Uncle Vernon stayed in the back with his apples and the other ingredients for a big, giant pie. As they came around the corner, Desmond gasped, Tony's Pizza. Of course, said Clayton. What could be better than a giant pizza pan? Mr. Tony greeted them at the door. Welcome, welcome. We are ready to begin. And so they got to work, making the dough for the crust, kneading it, rolling it out half into a big circle, and spreading it over the deep dish pan. Then everyone peeled and sliced the apples, mixed together the sugar and the spices, and spread the rest of the dough on top. Wow, said Clayton and Desmond when they were finished. Wow, wow, wow. An hour, said Mr. Tony. Give me an hour. The giant pan just fit into the huge oven. That next day was Friday. Who would have the largest apple? James, of course. And Mr. Mouser handed him the prize, a cheddar cheese apple. Mrs. Mousley looked surprised. Clayton, Desmond, nothing from you? The 2 of them just grinned. At that same moment, the classroom door flew open. In came Clayton's dad, Uncle Vernon, and Mr. Tony, struggling to carry the giant pie all by themselves. How wonderful, said Mrs. Mousley. That is the biggest apple pie ever. We made it for the whole class, said Clayton. All of us together, said Desmond. They shared a high five, and everyone in the class had a very big slice of pie. The end. Did they win the contest? They didn't. But did they do something awesome and nice for their teacher and their friends? They did. How many of you guys like apple pie? I do too. I like vanilla ice cream with my apple pie. Okay, I hope you guys liked my story. And if you haven't been to the apple cider mill, then maybe you could ask somebody to take you. It would be a nice little day to get out of the house. Okay, have a good night. Bye.